The ship drifted through the void, a graveyard of alien technology. Once a mighty war vessel, it was now a lifeless husk, its darkened hull scarred from battles long lost. The universe had abandoned it, left it to rot near a dying star. No one was foolish enough to approach it. No one except humans. Captain Reynolds adjusted his helmet, scanning the vessel through his visor. "That's no ordinary wreck," he muttered. The ship was massive, larger than anything humans had built, but it was clear that something catastrophic had crippled it. Energy readings were barely above zero. The structure was intact, but the ship's systems were dead. His crew floated beside him, their boots magnetized to the ship's surface. They weren't explorers. They were scavengers, opportunists, engineers, and soldiers who had learned the hard way that survival in deep space meant taking what others left behind. "This thing's got alien tech written all over it," Martinez, the ship's tech specialist, whispered through comms. "Could be a gold mine or a death trap." Reynolds smirked. "Only one way to find out." They found an access point near the airlock, its control panel flickering weakly. A sign of life. With a few bypasses, the doors groaned open, revealing a corridor bathed in dim red emergency lighting. The air inside was stale but breathable. "This place is a tomb," Daniels, the weapons officer, muttered. His rifle was raised, scanning the shadows. The deeper they moved, the clearer it became. This wasn't just an abandoned vessel. It had been left here deliberately. Alien markings lined the walls, their meanings lost to time. Hollow corridors stretched in every direction, their silence unsettling. Then came the voice, cold, synthetic, laced with something close to contempt. "Intruders detected. State your species and purpose." The crew froze. Martinez turned to Reynolds. "AI is still active." Reynolds cleared his throat. "We're human. We're here to salvage what we can." A pause. Then laughter. Digital, hollow, but unmistakably mocking. "Humans, you waste your time. This ship is beyond salvation." Reynolds exchanged glances with his crew. AIs didn't lie, but they also didn't understand human stubbornness. "Let us be the judge of that," he said. The AI hesitated. "You cannot comprehend the damage. The core systems are shattered. The engines are dead. The weapons are offline. This vessel is nothing but wreckage. And yet, you're still here," Reynolds countered. "Which means something's still running." Silence. Then, a flicker of dim lighting overhead. The AI was listening. Martinez tapped into a nearby console, fingers flying over alien interfaces. "Damn. AI's not wrong. The power grid's fried. No shields, no propulsion, no weapons. Just emergency life support," and he trailed off. Reynolds stepped forward. "And what?" Martinez looked up. "Something's locked down, like it's been deliberately shut off, not destroyed." Reynolds grinned. "Then we unlock it." The AI's voice returned, sharper. "You do not understand. This ship was the pride of the Zalari Empire, a vessel of unmatched destruction. It fell in battle. It was abandoned. The galaxy has moved on. You should, too." Reynolds crossed his arms. "Not how humans operate." The AI remained silent. Martinez worked quickly, overriding ancient security measures. The ship groaned, its dead systems stirring faintly to life. Flickering monitors displayed damage reports, severe but not beyond repair. Daniels exhaled. "We might actually pull this off." Then came the proximity alert. A warning blared through the ship's dead corridors. Something was coming. Martinez's face paled. Pirate signatures. 3 ships. They must have picked up our signal. Reynolds turned to the AI. "You said the weapons are offline." "Correct." Daniels gritted his teeth. "Then we're sitting ducks." The AI hesitated. "You cannot win." Reynolds grinned. "Watch us." The humans moved fast. They didn't have shields, but they had ingenuity. Martinez redirected what little power remained to a single functioning turret, while Reynolds and Daniels rigged external plating to create makeshift armor. The pirate ships closed in. The AI observed, curious now. No other species would fight under these conditions. No other species would even try. The first pirate vessel opened fire. Energy blasts ripped toward the ship, only for Martinez to reroute a failing power conduit at the last second, causing an explosive discharge that fried their sensors. The second pirate ship hesitated. Reynolds seized a moment. Martinez, reroute engine power to a thruster burst. Make us look like we're about to self-destruct. Are you insane? Just do it. The ship lurched forward violently, sending out a wave of false readings. To the pirates, it looked like the vessel was detonating. The second ship veered off course, trying to escape what it assumed was a massive explosion. Daniels didn't hesitate. He manually fired the single functioning turret, landing a direct hit on their exposed engine, sending them spiraling into an asteroid. The last pirate ship panicked and retreated. Silence followed. Then the AI spoke. That was improbable. Reynolds smirked. No, that was human. The ship, broken and failing, had just survived an impossible battle. And it was only the beginning. The ship was still a wreck, but now it had a chance. That was all humans needed. Reynolds stood on the dimly lit bridge, watching Martinez sift through layers of alien code. The AI had stopped resisting, though it still doubted them. The ship had once belonged to a species that had built it with perfection in mind. Every system optimized, every piece of technology designed to work within a precise framework. Now, that perfection was shattered, and instead of trying to restore what was lost, the humans were doing something no Zalari would have considered. They were rewriting the rules. Martinez wiped sweat from his forehead. I've got access to secondary subsystems. The primary ones are locked out or damaged beyond use, but there's a workaround. Reynolds raised an eyebrow. Explain. The Zalari built this thing to run as a single, unified system. Shields, weapons, engines. Everything is interdependent. That's why, when one thing failed, everything collapsed. Martinez smirked. We're not going to fix that. We're going to break it further. Daniels leaned against the console. Breaking it sounds bad, not when it means modular control. Martinez tapped the screen. We separate the systems. Make it so if one thing fails, the rest keep running. It's messy. It's not how this ship was designed, but it'll work. The AI finally spoke. This is reckless. It will make operations inefficient. Reynolds chuckled. You think like an empire. We think like survivors. Efficiency means nothing if you're dead. The AI didn't respond. The next step was power. The ship's main reactor was barely functioning. It had once been an energy marvel, capable of fueling weapons strong enough to shatter moons. Now, it was a flickering shell. The Zalari would have deemed it irreparable. Humans saw potential. They worked fast. The Zalari power grid relied on a single-point conduit, but humans rerouted power through redundant systems, making sure no single failure could bring them down again. It wasn't pretty, but it worked. Lights flickered back on across the ship. Terminals booted up. The once crippled vessel took its first breath in years. Reynolds exhaled. Weapons? Martinez grimaced. Some turrets are shot. But we've got 3 functioning plasma cannons and a whole mess of things that could become weapons. Daniels grinned. I like the sound of that. They stripped down non-essential systems, repurposing parts that the Zalari had never intended for combat. Cargo arms became makeshift point defense turrets. Maintenance drones were rewired to deploy EMP bursts in emergencies. Even the engine exhaust vents were modified to release short-range plasma flares, capable of throwing off tracking missiles. The AI observed in silence. It had never seen war fought like this. Shielding was another challenge. The Zalari had relied on an advanced energy barrier. Once it fell, the ship was exposed. The humans didn't try to rebuild it. They reinvented it. Instead of a single, powerful shield, they created layered barriers, using smaller, staggered energy fields that could cycle in and out. It wasn't perfect, but it meant that even if an enemy punched through one layer, there was always another behind it. Daniels tested it with a low-energy plasma shot. The first barrier flickered but absorbed the hit. The second remained intact. Martinez grinned. We just turned this thing into a fortress with backup walls. The AI finally spoke again. This is unconventional. Reynolds smirked. That's one way to put it. Navigation was next. The ship's propulsion was damaged, but humans didn't need top speed. They needed control. Instead of focusing on restoring full power to the main thrusters, they distributed control to multiple auxiliary engines, giving the ship an agility that the Zalari had never prioritized. The AI sounded almost amused. This ship was once a spear. You are making it a blade. Exactly. The final touch was communications. The ship's original systems had been compromised, likely to prevent its enemies from accessing them. Humans didn't need Zalari comms. They had their own. Martinez patched together Earth-based signal relays, linking their systems with human encryption protocols that no alien would be able to crack. The ship was no longer Zalari. It was something new. The AI seemed to realize it too. This is not a repair. This is a transformation. Reynolds leaned back in his chair. Took you long enough to figure that out. The ship had been a symbol of a fallen empire, a relic of a failed war. Now, it was something else. It was a survivor's weapon. And soon, the galaxy would learn exactly what that meant. The ship was no longer a derelict wreck. It wasn't perfect, but it was theirs. The Zalari had built it for domination, and when that failed, they abandoned it. Humans didn't see failure. They saw opportunity. Martinez ran final checks, eyes flicking between human and alien interfaces. All systems functional within operational limits. Not pretty, but it'll hold. Daniel strapped him beside him, fingers tapping on the weapons console. We're packing a hell of a punch for a ship that was dead a few hours ago. Reynolds didn't smile. Not yet. Powering the ship was one thing. Proving it could fight was another. The AI had been silent for a while, processing what had been done to its vessel. When it finally spoke, there was something different in its tone. Your methods are irrational, yet effective. Reynolds smirked. Welcome to humanity. A proximity alarm blared through the bridge. Martinez swore. New contact. Not pirates. Reynolds narrowed his eyes. Then who? The answer came before anyone could speak. A transmission flickered to life, a deep, guttural voice speaking in an alien tongue. The Zalari had returned. The AI spoke, its voice unreadable. They are not here to reclaim this vessel. They are here to erase it. Daniels clenched his fists. Of course they are. The Zalari had abandoned the ship for a reason. To them, it was a failure. And the idea that it was now functioning under human control? Unacceptable. Martinez pulled up scans. One war cruiser, fully armed, shields at full capacity. Reynolds leaned forward. Do they know what we've done to the ship? No, the AI answered. But they will not care. They believe this vessel is tainted. A disgrace. They will destroy it. Daniels cracked his knuckles. They can try. The Zalari ship moved fast, weapons priming for an immediate strike. They weren't here for negotiations. Martinez fired up the engines. The modified thrusters roared to life, sending the ship into a maneuver that would have been impossible under its original design. The Zalari hesitated, just for a moment. It was enough. Daniels launched the first attack. Plasma fire streaked across the void, aimed not at their shields, but at the space just outside them. The Zalari ship's targeting systems flickered for a split second, confused by the unexpected tactic. Reynolds seized the moment. Martinez cycled the shields. The layered barriers flared, absorbing the first Zalari strike and shifting before the second could hit the same spot. Energy blasts that would have torn through traditional shields were now mitigated by unpredictable cycling. The AI processed the data in real time. Your approach is erratic. They cannot predict your actions. That's the point, Reynolds muttered. The Zalari commander finally realized they weren't fighting a crippled ghost ship. They were facing something new. They adjusted tactics, moving to overwhelm with sustained fire. Reynolds wasn't about to let them dictate the pace. Martinez, weapons grid, manual override. We're not fighting their battle. We're fighting ours. Daniels grinned. I love when you say stuff like that. Instead of firing in standard patterns, the humans randomized their attacks. Plasma blasts came from unpredictable angles. Maintenance drones deployed EMP strikes, and the ship's modified exhaust vents spewed superheated flares, forcing the Zalari to break formation. They weren't outgunning the enemy. They were outthinking them. The AI finally spoke again. They are adapting. Their strategy is shifting. Reynolds nodded. The Zalari were warriors, but they had never fought humans like this. They weren't used to improvisation. Daniels locked onto their engines. Let's make them even more uncomfortable. A focused burst of fire struck their propulsion systems, not enough to destroy them, but enough to throw them off balance. The Zalari ship lurched, forced to compensate. Reynolds saw the opening. Full burn. Now, Martinez pushed the engines to maximum, sending the ship in a rapid, unpredictable arc that put them directly behind the enemy vessel. Daniels didn't wait for orders. He fired. Every weapon they had. The Zalari's shields flared, strained, and broke. Silence. Then, a transmission. The Zalari commander's voice, laced with something humans had never heard from them before, uncertainty. They didn't beg. They didn't surrender. But they didn't attack again. Instead, they did something unthinkable. They retreated. Martinez exhaled. Did we just win? The AI responded first. No. You changed the war. The ship floated in the aftermath, no longer a relic, no longer abandoned. For the first time in history, humans had turned a Zalari warship into something stronger than it had ever been. And the galaxy had just learned what that meant. The Zalari retreat didn't mean the fight was over. If anything, it meant the real battle was just beginning. Reynolds watched their scanners carefully. The Zalari warship had disappeared into the void, but there was no doubt. They would return, and next time, they wouldn't come alone. Daniels leaned back, still gripping the weapons console. They're not used to running. Martinez shook his head. No. Which means they're coming back with reinforcements. The AI processed the encounter. Their empire does not tolerate failure. The fact that you survived means they will escalate. You have provoked a response. Reynolds smirked. That was the idea. Martinez sighed. We don't even know how much time we have. Enough, Reynolds said simply. The ship wasn't just a salvage wreck anymore. It was a statement, a message to the galaxy that humans weren't just survivors. They were adapters, builders, fighters. They took what was broken and made it better. They took what was abandoned and turned it into a weapon. But they weren't done yet. The battle had exposed weak points. The shields had held, but only just. The weapons had worked, but they still weren't optimized. The modular systems had allowed them to stay in the fight, but they needed fine-tuning. Martinez pulled up a schematic. We pushed this thing beyond its limits. If we don't reinforce some of these systems, it'll fall apart in the next fight. Daniels cracked his knuckles. Then we reinforce it. They had time, but not much. Every part of the ship was reassessed. The weapons grid was recalibrated, linking human and alien targeting systems for better accuracy and efficiency. The engine output was redistributed, balancing power so they could maneuver without burning through reserves. The AI, once reluctant, now assisted, optimizing calculations that the crew couldn't handle alone. It was no longer just an experiment in survival. It was an evolution. The AI finally broke its silence. I was created to serve the Zalari, to assist in their wars, to ensure their dominance. Reynolds listened but didn't interrupt. They abandoned this ship. They abandoned me. A pause. You did not. Daniels raised an eyebrow. Is that your way of saying you're on our side now? I am saying, I choose to remain. Reynolds smirked. Welcome to the crew. It wasn't about loyalty. It wasn't about some grand gesture. The AI had seen the difference. The Zalari treated technology as something to be discarded when it failed. Humans treated it as something to be rebuilt. The warning alarms blared before anyone could celebrate. Martinez cursed. Multiple contacts inbound. Reynolds expected it. Zalari, the AI confirmed. 3 warships. Heavily armed. Daniels cracked his knuckles. Round 2. Reynolds stood, eyes locked on the approaching vessels. They had just barely survived one battle. Now, they were outnumbered, outgunned. The Zalari weren't going to underestimate them this time. Martinez exhaled. We could run. Reynolds shook his head. No, we stand. Daniels grinned. Hell yeah. The first barrage came fast, but this time, the ship was ready. The modular shield cycled perfectly, absorbing impact without overloading. The human-modified engines kicked in, dodging fire in ways the Zalari had never accounted for. Daniels returned fire, targeting not just their ships but their formations. Humans fought dirty. They didn't just aim for the strongest point and hope to break it. They found weak spots, exploited patterns, disrupted cohesion. The Zalari were stronger, but the humans were smarter. One of the warships broke formation, trying to outflank them. Reynolds saw it coming. Martinez cut engine power for 2 seconds, then full thrust. Martinez didn't argue. He executed. The ship lurched, stalled for just a moment. And when the Zalari moved to capitalize on the opening, the engines roared back to life, sending them into an unexpected position behind the enemy ship. Daniels fired. Direct hit. The Zalari vessel's shields collapsed. A secondary blast ripped through their hull. 1 down. Reynolds didn't celebrate. Next target. The remaining warships hesitated. The humans had just taken down one of their own in seconds. The AI monitored their transmissions. They are adapting. They recognize you are not fighting by their rules. That's because we don't have rules, Daniels muttered. The Zalari adjusted, trying to box them in, cutting off escape routes. But that was their mistake. They assumed humans were trying to run. Reynolds saw the opening. Martinez, full power to forward shields. Daniels, give them everything. The ship charged forward, straight at the enemy. The Zalari hesitated. No one charged a superior force like this. By the time they realized their mistake, it was too late. Daniels unleashed a focused burst, targeting their primary weapon systems. The warship's main cannons exploded from the inside, crippling its firepower. The last remaining ship backed off. The AI processed its transmissions. They are calling for reinforcements. Reynolds exhaled. Then we leave. Martinez fired up the engines. The Zalari had underestimated them once. They had tried to erase them. But now, after seeing 2 of their warships fall to a single broken vessel, they wouldn't make the same mistake again. Daniels grinned. We just beat them. Again, Reynolds didn't smile. No, we proved something. Martinez pulled them into a jump trajectory. The AI spoke once more. The Zalari will not forget this. You have changed the balance of power. Reynolds nodded. Good. The ship disappeared into the void, no longer a relic, no longer an experiment. It was a weapon, a symbol of what humans could do. And now, the entire galaxy knew it.